yourself behind.
That's true.
So anticipating those future needs, build something that satisfies those needs, and then wait to the customer at that far end, where those needs evolve clearly, and then you will be first in the market. If you remember the smartphones,
Yep.
all of us, not the ladies, of course, but the men, born, I would believe, in 60s or 70s. Ladies are much younger in the room. So we all face those changes from the analog phones until we switch to the smartphones, whereby at the first stages, we couldn't find that it's important. And who care if I do have internet at that time or not? It's a call, SMS, send and receive, and that's it. This is all what I need. So if you would ask a customer in that area, at that time, the answer would be, there is no need for a smartphone.
Yeah.
So building it, testing it, have it ready at that time, I think companies overtake the place of others.
Yeah.
This is what we do in Boubyan, and this is what how we practice our slogan, which is toward perfection.
So just one question to you. So we talked about expectations. Are you doing customer journey maps or anything? Can you give me just an example of a tool that you would?
Yeah, we do have a direct communication with our customers through the different channels that is available for most banks, most institutions.
So like NBK, surveys and surveys, social media.
Ghost shopper, panels with the customers, social media feedback. All of those.
Okay, so Sam, I'm going to ask you a question now. With the expertise that FullStory has in behavioral analytics, what can organizations do to capture customer insights so that they can improve the offering or customer experience? Can everyone hear? Can we make sure this mic is working, please?
Okay. Any better? Yeah.
Yes.
Firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of the panel. Great to join the gentleman here. Thank you to Service Zero for having us as well. So with FullStory, we see that really meeting customers where they are in the moments that matter is really critical for the organisations we work with. So that involves capturing real-time insights to put yourselves in the shoes of the customer and actually see things through their eyes. Oftentimes, in order to do that, organisations, they need to sometimes move beyond data around the systems that customers are using. Do they arrive on a desktop, a mobile app? What's my age, my gender, what have I bought in the past, my interests? You need to capture that contextual, in-moment behavioural data, which can often be unstructured, sometimes difficult to harness, even harder to act upon in real time. It's this data that can be the difference between retaining and keeping a customer in those critical moments or actually losing them to a competitor. But for those organisations that are able to capture that behavioural data and combine it with other data sets, they can start to do a number of different things. So really understand at a very granular level how different customer groups are behaving, getting to the why behind their behaviour in addition to what they've done, being able to pinpoint specific moments in the customer journey and actually intervene with personalisation in those critical moments. It could be, a personalised marketing offer or a coupon. It could be just a far more empathetic service engagement which actually understands contextually the friction or frustration a customer has and allows the brand to actually interject before that escalates and becomes a large problem, but also starting to predict and understand trends in customer behaviour. So, you might have a group of customers that are exhibiting behaviour similar to those that went on to maybe churn or potentially go on to be loyal. How can you start to communicate and nurture groups so that you set them on the path that you hope they'll take, similar to those that you would like to emulate? So it's about understanding that contextual real-time data and making that actionable in key moments.
That must rely on some machine learning and some AI with that kind of huge data set.
Yeah, I think it's key really to be able to leverage. I mean, everyone's talking about AI at the moment, and there are various applications. There are some very practical applications for AI, though. So, for example, in one of the things that we do at FullStory, we actually summarise every single session, every unique session that an individual has. We'll summarise that using AI, and we'll surface the friction, the frustration, the meaning, and you can then start to use that data in quite creative ways. So it could be setting threshold alerts or triggers when maybe conversion is going outside of a particular threshold. That could trigger an alert, maybe a JIRA ticket, for example, to allow developers to mobilise and fix a bug. It could be if you identify a high-value customer and they're having a difficulty or a struggle, before they actually articulate and maybe complain or voice that, being able to understand that issue, maybe triggering an instant message internally via Teams or Slack to a VIP or a care team, so they can actually reach out proactively to meet that customer in that moment of difficulty to try and defuse something before it escalates. And then it really goes on to even more advanced use cases like training more empathetic chatbots, maybe using data. Again, to be able to cut down on resolution times and better serve customers on digital channels. So many applications, but also practical start points.
Thank you. So I'm going to switch now. So we've kind of established that everyone's working on understanding customers, using whether it's traditional surveys or using the metrics that you're collecting from your different channels, social media, etc., and then FullStory's kind of solution of analyzing and tracking behavior. So I'm going to move now to something that I think is very, very challenging, which is making sure customer centricity is part of the culture. I think a lot of people say it, but I don't think many organizations achieve it. So everyone says customer first, but I think it's really hard because there's always a tension between customer and sales. The bottom line versus meeting customers. It's a tension that we always feel and see and hear when we work with brands. So I'm going to start with Boubyan Bank. And how do you ensure as a leadership team that you're instilling this customer first mindset? What are the things that you do to achieve that?
Well, it's there in our DNA.
Okay.
And
how has it become your DNA?
Again?
How has it become your DNA?
Well, I think this question should be asked to Abu Khalid. This was prior to my stage, and the credit goes to the team on the table. It's really there. The care of customer experience and customer satisfaction, trust me, in Boubyan comes before the numbers. We believe that having that reputation and customer experience perfection lead for us to achieve whatever we can achieve, market share, growth, whatever it is. So it's in there in our KPIs in different management level. It's in our meetings discussion. It's in our top management discussion. It's in our daily routine. I was seeing my colleagues, and I can see a couple of them holding phones. I can bet you that I received now in the group couple of messages capturing a youth, 15 years old customer wrote a comment in TikTok. It might be our CEO capturing things, sending it, saying that this comment was written 8 minutes ago. Why no one responds yet? So we go to that details in different levels. It's in our DNA, so it is reflected automatically in our KPIs, in our strategy, in our daily work, in our decisions, in our threat, worries of any product that we introduce. So I think having that kind of culture whereby customer centricity evolve is the most vital element in an institution.
It is. I'm going to pose a similar question to NBK as well. Like, how do you ensure that your staff understand customer first?
Again, as my colleague says, it's all about the culture. On top of that, training is very important.
Yeah.
We train our staff from day one that the customer is the most important thing. Now, if you see banks or even telcos, all products are similar. What differentiates us is the service.
Yeah.
So the customer comes again if the service is good. And when we say service, maybe 20, 25 years ago, service means greeting customers, smile. This was a great service at that time. Now, the customers are not even coming to branches. For example, in MBK, we have transactions that happens in the mobile app in a month equals 2 years transaction in branches.
That's true.
So how to reach a customer satisfaction, and we care how to satisfy our customers in all our channels. This is very important. And at the same time, I'll give you just a small example. We have like Kuwait card, the card we have, the credit card, the Visa card that has Kuwait map on it. This is a cashback card. When we designed the card, we asked our customers about the color that they want. We had an idea of having it either metal or plastic. We asked them. We asked them about the features, and then we designed it as they want. This is their request. It's not our request. So we do care about the customer, and we try to do what they want from their point of view and not from our point of view.
So are your staff involved in this kind of discussion? I'm talking about frontline staff in particular.
Yes, they are, always. Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, and as I told you, training in every occasion.
Okay.
When they join, when they get promoted, during the year, there are a lot of trainings regarding customer centricity. So
the message is always there.
yeah, it's always
yes. Okay. Adeeb, I'm going to ask you about tracking tools. So there's multiple tools that any company can use: NPS, customer satisfaction, similar to what we do, sentiment analysis. How can that help a customer ensure, a brand, sorry, not a customer, a company ensure that customer first mindset? How do these different tools and metrics help them?
Hello?
Yeah, they can hear.
So, I mean, first of all, we're definitely in good company here. I think every single company that's in this hall already has a very strong sense of the customer centricity. And it's definitely something that's very critical to ensuring high levels of satisfaction and continuing level of satisfaction. But coming from the perspective of utilizing tools or leveraging tools to help drive this customer centricity, I think it always comes down to really making sure that you can understand your customers as well as possible and understand how they interact with your own products, your own services, your own brand as well as possible. And a big part of that is also realizing that a customer is not a specific instant in time. It's not one particular transaction. A customer is four-dimensional, which means they're interacting with your products, your services, and your brand across different times, in different contexts, and in different channels. And you really need a tool that helps you extract this information, to surface this information, and provide you with the insights that helps you gain actionable information that you can start planning your next your next steps or your strategy. And I think this is very essential. This kind of information becomes very essential to helping drive this customer centricity, because you're putting the customer front and center. At the same time, of course, the tool is there to, your objective is really to continue to improve your customer satisfaction or your customer service. So you're looking to, by definition, you have to see where you stand right now, what you're already doing well, where and how can you improve things. How can you do things at scale as well, because that also becomes an important aspect, and to still capture all that context of the different scenarios and user experiences that I talked about. So again, all of that helps build this customer centricity. And there are several different data points within tools that are especially helpful for this. And one of the things that we touched on earlier was also the gap analysis. Earlier, meaning in the presentation that we were talking about. Because that comes the closest to really expressing where is it that customers see that they want things to improve. What is it exactly that they're looking for? Where are you falling short? And tools like that become very, very important. And I will try to avoid saying service hero engagement dashboard 100 times during my talk, but definitely we've spent a lot of time designing the dashboard in a way that really surfaces all this very complex and rich data that we have, in part because of the multidimensional aspect of the design of our survey, but in part also because of the rich demographic information and the user profile model that we utilize So when you look at the data by slicing and dicing the information together between the dimensional aspects of the survey and the demographic information about the users and their behavior over years in some cases, you're able to get a very rich understanding of your user base. And then on top of that, we have the analysis of the comments, all the sentiment analysis, and the faceted analysis of the dimensions of the comments. So again, all of this really gives you a very insightful view of the user.
Thank you, thank you. The third theme I'd like to focus on a little bit is consistency, which I've talked about and, you know, showed you the two golden nuggets. One was understanding expectations and the other one was being able to do so in a consistent manner. So the question to NBK, one of the most consistent brands in Kuwait, very small. So the consistency calculation that we use is based on standard deviation. So it's a statistical calculation. So you're very small in that. You're very precise, NBK is. So can you talk a little bit about how do you make sure that you are consistent across the different channels? Adeeb and everyone's been mentioning different channels, so not just in the branch. And you mentioned the application.
We do leverage our data and we gauge everything we do. So we monitor our results in all our services, all our channels. And we as I previously said, we hear our customer, we keep hearing them, and we make sure that everything we want is in place. We have our targets, not to go below those targets. And again, we always aim high. So we don't reach a point that we can say we are satisfied. We always want more, and then this way we can keep consistent in our service.
So besides the market research, I'm presuming I'm sure there are standards that you have that are very, very precise, so that everyone knows this is the NBK standard, or this is across the different channels. Like this is the way that we handle a complaint. So this
yeah, of course. There's a procedure for everything.
Yeah.
We do have a plan for every channel, and we have our expectation, and we measure this on a daily basis, and then any alarming issue we solve right away, and we keep moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boubyan, do you have any different perspective on this, on consistency?
It's almost the same. I mean, the same tools. Let's agree that the financial institution, banking sectors, is a hectic industry whereby the customer needs are there for 24/7. People bank with us across the world, different timing, different zones. Our services should be up, running 24/7. This leads that we have to create new tools, mechanisms, methods in servicing those needs. Most banks have almost the same dashboards, surveys, service hero dashboards, Ghost Shopper, whatever it is. But then what do you do with those data? How you react to it, and how you serve them. Like where before the age of chatbots, Boubyan chatbots, Musa'ad was there. We were before market in creating those kind of communication. Musa'ad, our chatbot, I believe it was in 2018.
You want to explain what Musa'ad is for those?
Musa'ad is our Boubyan chatbot, whereby you can interact, ask questions, will give you answer, financial transactions, from buying iTunes until closing a financial transaction, is served by Musa'ad 24/7. We are the first to introduce our interactive teller machine, the ITM 24/7. There are agents can answer your call, provide services. So we focus on providing our services, and we think about that customer isolated in an island. How can we serve him as he is in one of our branches? This is in our mind, and we move all soldiers, all forces toward achieving that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I referred to you as Boubyan instead of... I said I addressed you as Boubyan instead of Abdullah.
It's a pleasure.
I'm going to ask FullStory. So what are some of the technology that can predict issues? I think earlier in the day we were having a brief chat about rage clicks.
We did. I think it's probably worth saying to start with that, predictive or preemptive customer care. I think it used to be almost like a futuristic concept, but it's not now. I think many of the best brands, forward-thinking organisations have been, delivering or attempting to deliver kind of preemptive customer care for quite some years now. From our experience, the ability to deliver that really starts with having a complete view of the digital journey, the customer experience, and across that kind of complete view, being able to surface those signals, those granular things that can easily be missed, but if left untreated, can lead to issues or equally opportunities to, delight and satisfy customers. So, FullStory, we capture very granular data around the click behaviour, where people are scrolling, what they're looking at, going beyond, if you like, the actual end transaction or the end event, but what led somebody there. We surface meaning from all of those individual behaviours. If someone is kind of, let's say, thrashing their cursor around or clicking the mouse, then we would call that a rage click. We identify that and we surface it. If people are clicking buttons that aren't working, that could be a dead click. If there's a slow loading page, picking up on those things and using those signals in combination to identify that there could be an issue that's blocking somebody from taking their journey from where they are to the end. I think that's all fine and that's good. That's the what. You're identifying there's a problem, but as I mentioned before, I guess the way that you can then excel in our experience is to get to the why, and that's where organisations can use technologies to create, visual video recreations of a user session, summarising that using things like AI to actually understand, why did I abandon my basket, or why at the very end of the customer journey did I stop, open up a tab and start browsing with a competitor? Like, what was the reason that I didn't complete my journey path? I think when it then becomes quite, business critical or impactful is being able to then understand what's the implication of not doing anything and how do we mobilise our teams to take action. So there's a drop off in a journey. Who's affected? Is it high value customers? Is it low value or kind of new visitors? What's the financial implication of not fixing that problem? So if we don't fix it, how many people are likely to face the same issue? And once we know that, how can we mobilise our teams to take action to reduce the impact of an issue, meet our customers where they are in as close to real time as we can through things like chatbots or instant messaging to actually rectify, improve and turn potentially a negative situation into a positive situation. And we see customers doing this every day by taking a service engagement opportunity that was potentially negative by inception and actually using it as an opportunity to actually offer new services or products to a customer once they've solved the issue at hand. And that's where I think you can turn any interaction with a customer from being potentially negative or challenging to actually being delightful and, pushing your brand beyond, others and gaining that kind of competitive advantage.
Thank you, Sam. Adeeb, do you want to add anything about using any technology tools to monitor and raise customer service standards to ensure consistency again?
Well, I think it's because we're talking about scale and we're talking about continuity. Obviously, the more businesses develop, the more products they have, the more channels they have. So this idea of really adopting an omni-channel perspective to customer services, it becomes very essential. And at the same time, because, again, going back to that four-dimensionality of the customer, being able to identify the nuances of the different experiences over time also becomes very, very essential. So basically tracking on a 24/7 by 365 is really critical. Otherwise, you'll never get the full story. Sorry, Sam, no copyright infringements intended. But it becomes very essential for that purpose as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to go to the last section of the panel questions, and this is about tools, can you give us examples? And specifically, since both of you are clients of Service Hero's dashboard, I mean, how does that help you ensure that your service standards stay on top? You're doing a lot of other things. I know you're doing Mr. Shopping, doing your own research, but specifically, how does a Service Hero dashboard help you, track and monitor and improve?
Well, it is always valuable to have a third-party view. We do our own surveys, we have our own dashboards, but having Service Hero dashboard, it gives us a view about other banks and competitors. We also have other sectors. It's very important to see all sectors because currently customers are comparing services among different sectors.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So when a customer even go to a mobile app, for example, MPK mobile app, he compares us maybe with Talabat or maybe with Amazon.
You're right.
So seeing that the whole sector, know where is our exact place in this sector, it's very valuable, and we are using it and comparing it with our current data. So it is really adding value.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think the benchmarking is something that a lot of brands, and that's why we started. Yeah. We started because people said, "What's the benchmark?" And we said, "Let's create it." And that's where we were crazy. But anyway. What about عندكم Abdullah?
I totally agree with Mohammed. I mean, the most important part in reading those data is, Faten, is having them live and interacts with negative and positive feedback very fast in a way, either to solve an issue or raise a positive feedback to the customer. So, as you stated in your presentation, negative experience usually evolve in a bad way inside a human being. Solving it at the first stages might cause less damage than continue it. Having Service Hero dashboard with the 20 metrics in it, alongside with other tools that is within the bank, really help in reaching that point.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Adeeb, do you have anything to add on the KPIs and the metrics and the dashboard that you just want to bring up?
I mean, I'm a self-professed data nut, so for me, all of the data is very valuable. But if I was to draw attention to just some specific aspects of the data that I think probably brands should be looking at very frequently, so whether on a daily basis or much faster than that or similar to that, I would say definitely the NPS is something very important. The comparison of a brand score to the competitors as well as to the whole segment is very important. The gap analysis is incredibly important. And then also the more qualitative aspects of looking at the sentiment analysis of the comments and the faceted aspects, the dimensionality of the comments as well, and then perhaps also responding to the comments, because we talked about that before. That's an opportunity to convert a potentially negative experience into a positive.
Yeah, Abdullah just kind of mentioned something like that, where in fact the research says if you're able to win a negative customer or a complaining customer, you've won them for life generally. It's a much more strong relationship. I'd like to end with the same question to you, FullStory. So the question is, how can data analytics help improve the customer experience? I mean, what are the key KPIs, I guess, or analytics that you think a brand should be looking at to improve its CX?
Yeah, I think ultimately what we see in many of our customers that are excelling is having qualitative and quantitative data in one place, But then I think what's interesting is actually the ability to get to that point. A lot of organisations struggle from an analytics perspective because they, historically you have to manually instrument or code or tag everything you want to track. And as websites and journeys become more complex, that really holds a lot of organisations back, because by the time IT and development teams have tagged and manually instrumented all those things to track, track, it turns out that the answers to the most critical questions around the digital experience, the customer experience, are actually somewhere else. So actually having all of the data available without the challenges of instrumentation and tagging, but having like retroactive data that you can actually ask questions to and get answers to the critical things, you know, immediately, and being able to then take action upon those things, that's really the cornerstone where it begins. And I think once you have that complete view of the experience, then you can start to ask those important questions to find the answers that you never really knew you needed. You can then start to think about KPIs and what to track in different ways. So, for example, many organisations will track things like conversion. Of course, that's very important. But sometimes there are leading indicators and things we find that sit behind that, which many of our customers will start to kind of lift the hood on and really start to understand, which will, you know, ultimately impact those North Star metrics like conversion in an incremental way. So it could be, for example, you know, the amount of time spent at certain steps of the journey. It could be like the scroll depth on a particular page. Like these different things, when isolated and understood in terms of the impact they have on a journey to a particular event, by making subtle changes, by experimenting and optimizing those things to move the needle on those smaller, more tactical metrics, they can then go on to impact that North Star, whatever that is. And many of our customers will have an understanding of, you know, we want to improve lifetime value conversion, we want to reduce churn, but some, in addition to that, they don't really know, or they want to find those hidden answers. And using a platform like FullStory, you know, you can start to capture that data and begin from a baseline to redefine your metrics, which can give you that edge in your market.
Thanks, Sam. So I'm just going to summarize. It's been, at least for me, very educational to hear from brands the importance of measuring using multiple ways, measuring quantitative, qualitative, measuring on multiple channels, responding immediately, engaging with staff to enable them to ensure that there's a customer-centric culture. And I think those are kind of, I'm summarizing, you know, the main things that we heard today, and making service excellence part of the culture, part of the DNA. You use that word DNA. I like that. It's very simple. Making sure that staff all are trained all the time. So thank you very much, Sayyid Hisham, Sayyid Abdullah, Adeeb, Sam. And we'll move to the section that everyone's been waiting for, the awards.